Gear up, because this is the Fuel Your Marketing podcast, designed to accelerate sales and grow your business. Let's welcome your host, Arti Sharma.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Fuel Your Marketing podcast. I'm your host, Arti, and I have with me an amazing guest today on the show. He's a business leader, marketing and business coach, and specifically helps entrepreneurs scale and exit their businesses. It's an absolute pleasure and honor to have him on the show. And I've worked with Dan and his team in various stages of my business life, and he always has helped me move it forward wherever I was in business. So it's my absolute pleasure to have him. So without any further ado, let's welcome him. Dan, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Arti. Good to be here. Looking forward to chatting about marketing with you.
No, absolutely. It's my pleasure. And so Dan, for our audience and our listeners, please tell us a little bit about who you are and your company and how do you help businesses?
You bet. So I'm a business coach. So I work with business owners to help them grow their businesses, scale them to exit ideally, or have it in a saleable state so that it's running the most effectively, most profitably, most sustainably. So the major thrust there is getting the business owner out of the day-to-day and helping them develop their team, or develop beneath them to develop their team to really grow the business so that they remove themselves from being the bottleneck.
That's so important, right? When you're scaling up and you're like, you're moving from a few people in the business to more people, and how
it's critical.
It is critical. I know this, but I want to definitely ask you again, have you always been in this business?
No, I've been a business coach for 12 years, and I became a business coach because in my former business, my technology business, I was that bottleneck. Mm-hmm. And I met a business coach and ended up bringing them on board to help me because I was finding that I was working crazy hours. I wasn't getting things done that I wanted to do. The business was sort of stagnating. It was doing okay, but I couldn't get back to growth mode. And I didn't really know why. And what it was is I was being that bottleneck. I was hanging on to too many responsibilities. I didn't know how to delegate. My leadership wasn't that great at the time. And I just couldn't see the forest for the trees. I was just sort of frustrated. Why am I spinning my wheels? And when I hired my business coach, he really helped me turn all that around. Ended up growing the business and selling it to a friendly competitor, and then staying on with that organization for a little while. And I wanted to be out of technology though. And I wanted to do something that was more people-centric. So that's why I decided in 2010 that I wanted to be the kind of guy that, like my coach, helping other business owners, get out from underneath their business and have a business that they really enjoy and a lifestyle that they love.
So you are now playing in your desire zone and playing to your strengths.
Try to. Yep.
Yeah, I can totally tell. You definitely are. So you know what? Running multiple businesses, you have a prior experience. Now you work with a whole lot of businesses. Yeah. And of course, you see under the hood, right? I want to ask you, what's the role of marketing you feel in the scale up and the growth stage? And how do you kind of see people grow their businesses with marketing, without marketing? What's your take? Yeah,
I think marketing is really the engine that drives the growth, that drives the scaling. You can have an excellent operational plan, you can have excellent execution, but if you don't have business to conduct, then everyone's just kind of stuck. So I think marketing really, that's driving the lead generation into the business and really feeding the whole organization. So if we don't have an effective marketing function that's consistent and replicatable, then we start to get into inconsistencies and we run into up and downs in the business. So that's one of the areas I see where business owners kind of get it wrong sometimes, is that they rely on the owner relies on their own relationships to drive the business, as opposed to consistent, repeatable marketing methodology that drives consistent lead generation, qualified leads. So it can be a real stuck point if we don't have that role, that function in place.
That's music to my ears, right? I always talk about this very passionately, and I'm sure our listeners know that. But you know what? It's so important. And for our listeners, watch out for what Dan's talking about here, because he's dropping some really strong words, which kind of, when I feel they're memorable, consistent, turnkey, repeatable, qualified lead generation methodology, like a framework. And I think that's such a key thing, because as you just rightly said, Dan, marketing drives sales and other aspects of your business. How do you create, of course, a sales-centric culture? I think that's one important aspect that I see in growth companies sometimes is missing. They're very product-centric instead of sales-centric culture. Of course, you have to have a great product at the tail end, but you also have to have a mindset to be bringing that product to market. And what's your go-to-market strategy really plays a critical role in that scale-up stage. I find that when companies, it's funny that I was listening to I was reading a book, I don't recall what was it, but I remember what they said was that if your go-to-market strategy at your, during your sale or during your close ratio of the sale, you're really close to closing that sale. And if your client is asking you for a discount, your go-to-market is in trouble. You haven't done a very very good job with your marketing and your messaging to bring that buyer throughout the funnel to create that trust, that value, and then bring them to that sale. So I think it's such an important role.
It is. It really is. I sometimes dislike the term funnel. I understand why we use that term because you kind of think you start off with more prospective clients and you kind of disqualify or qualify and there's fewer people. So it's got that funnel shape. I really like to think of it as a journey, right? You're taking your customer on a journey from whether they know or don't know what they need. They identify that your product or service may be a fit for them. You're helping them understand where that fit is. You're guiding them along to the point where the sales should happen somewhat naturally. There shouldn't be sales force or sales pressure at that point. You're developing rapport and trust with your customer along that journey. And then if you're needing to discount, something got missed. They're not seeing the value. And a coach buddy of mine named Foster gave me this definition of discounting. It's a financial apology for lack of confidence in your product or service, right? So if you got to that point where you have...
It's a financial apology?
It's a financial apology. Yeah. For lack of confidence in your product or service. Yeah. It's like, okay, well, I don't believe in my product enough. I don't believe in my service enough, or I haven't developed enough rapport and trust with you, or I haven't demonstrated the value of our offering. So I'll discount it so that, we can get the job or we can get make the sale. It's not a great strategy.
So yeah, you know what? When I was reading somewhere, and I don't recall where it was, but it was very profound. And what it said was that if your go-to-market strategy there is a flaw, especially when you're at a sales stage and you have to discount your product or your service, you should know that your marketing hasn't done the job. You haven't been able to create that trust, the value, your content isn't sticky enough, or something has happened during the sales process, which of course is a reflection of some marketing.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, marketing, if we think about the purpose, it is designed to uncover need, have people see where the need is and see that you are the best solution for them. And if it comes down to the point where at the very end, they're questioning the value, then the marketing and or the salesperson or the sales process hasn't done an effective enough job to demonstrate that value. And that's something that's built over time, right? It's not just, wow, I want to get that latest iPhone. I mean, that took time for the iPhone to become desirable. And now it sort of retains that iconic, everybody lines up for 3 hours to get the iPhone sort of thing. But for our businesses, right, we've got to make sure that we're developing that rapport. We have to earn it all the time, right? Yeah. So the marketing process has got to develop that trust and demonstrate the value and have people excited about what's next and see that you are the best solution, whether it's a product or if it's a service, that what you have on offer totally connects with them and the issue or problem that they have that your product or service solves. And when that happens, there's generally not a lot of discounting going on. But one of the other things that leads to discounting is lack of differentiation. Like if you're the same as everybody else, if you haven't differentiated yourself from your competitors, they can't tell the difference. Your messaging is the same, your marketing is the same. It's going to come down to price because otherwise what else do they have to compare, right? So that's why it's so important to have an effective marketing process that you understand your niche, you understand your target market, the way they think and the issues they have that you can provide a solid solution for and come across as different and better and unique and the only solution for your client. It's a bit of a tall order, but if you don't want to get shopped on price, you got to stand out.
You got to stand out for sure. And you have to create your blue ocean. The blue ocean shift was a big part of my journey when I started to kind of build a measure marketing and said, what is our blue ocean? And I think we periodically come back every time we're pivoting. We're always looking at that and say, how do we create that uncontested ocean of leads for ourselves and to do business? And you said something profound when we just started talking about it, what your friend had said. Do you want to kind of say that quote again?
For sure. It's a good one. So a friend of mine, Foster, is a coach down in the States, and we were talking about discounting. And he said to me, a discount is a financial apology for lack of confidence in your product or service. Right. So
financial apology. Fantastically well put together.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I don't believe in it. So you take 10% off.
We need to believe in ourselves, right? So I think that's so relatable. And I tell my account management team, our sales team, the same thing. We have a great product and a service and we do it really well and we believe in it and there's no discounting going on. So I think that's profound for our listeners. That's a golden nugget right there. So Dan, I mean, you talked about turnkey model, you talked about systems, you talk about marketing as a framework, essentially, right? So what should be in an ideal marketing vision? What do you coach your business owners who are trying to scale, grow? What components should go in that framework or that vision?
I think it's like Steve, if you've ever heard of the book, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People by Stephen Covey, he talked, I forget which habit it is, but it's begin with the end in mind. And so we have to take the longer term view of what the enterprise is looking to accomplish, right? So the marketing is a supportive function to help further the strategy. So we've got to look at the long term, the long range, everything from our core values right up to our vision. Where are we going? what's our BHAG, or big, hairy, audacious goal? Where is this business on its way to? And then we work back from that. Well, if we need to be at whatever market penetration by X number, 3 years out, well, where do we need to be in 90 days? We've got to bring it back and say, okay, if we're going to this destination, we have to start where we're at. We have to understand what the journey is going to look like and make sure that we're taking appropriate, consistent action along the way. But it's got to be aligned with the strategy for the business, right? And that means being really clear on your target market, understanding your brand promise and the value that you add to your clients, making sure that you've got that mechanism and the right people as well in place to execute. And for some businesses, it's going to be internal, right? And for a lot, they're going to need to rely on an external marketing resource, because it does a couple of things. I find that when there's an internal marketing function, unless it's a larger company, there can be a bit of slack in it where they don't have all the expertise, right? It's one person or maybe a small team. And marketing is changing so fast, right? We think of all the digital technologies and the different platforms and content creation, just everything that you need to be aware of. No one person can really, know it all, right? So sometimes we need to outsource and bring in the experts to make sure that they are bringing the right technology, the right ideas. But the other thing that does is brings consistency, because it's easy to procrastinate. But when you've got a marketing meeting with your external team on Thursday, well, you better be ready, because you're paying them and you don't want to waste their money and their time and your own. So having that external partner, that external accountability, and I'm a coach, I'm all about accountability.
Of course,
that external accountability can make a huge difference in actually getting things done.
Totally. And that cadence, that when you set that cadence, I think there is a lot more momentum. And that's what this podcast is all about. How do you build that momentum? So you're saying that, you see companies make mistakes when they don't have that cadence. They try and do everything in-house. They not just procrastinate, but they have big vision, but they don't put enough resources or the right resources behind that vision to make it all happen.
It could be that they don't put the right resources in place, or don't have the right resources, or they could have a misunderstanding of what it actually takes. As humans, and especially ever since the fax machine was invented, we've become instant gratification junkies, right? It used to be you'd FedEx and get your document overnight. Now in the 90s, you could fax it and it gets there in a couple of minutes. Now it's email and instant messaging and text. Everything is happening in real time. And I think that very often we want our marketing results to show up immediately. Hey, I tweeted, how come I didn't get a new order? So I think sometimes we're a little bit disconnected with the effort and the amount of time it takes to nurture the leads and to gain market awareness. So that's why we need a longer term plan. We've got to be consistent and do the things daily that need to get done in terms of marketing execution, even when we don't see results yet, because we don't necessarily see the results right away. Then we have to think of it, I think, as marketing as like planting seeds, right? You get some nice fertile soil, like your marketplace. You plant some seeds, which is your marketing message and connections and things like that. Well, when you put the seed in there, it doesn't jump out as a fully formed corn stalk like in 2 minutes. Like you got to water it and you got to till it and fertilize it and pull the weeds out and adjust and make sure it gets sunlight. But what the seed is growing. You don't give up on it. It's there, it's growing. So same with our marketing. At first, we have a good strategy. We have to make sure that we continue executing, even though we don't see results right away, right? If we know what our leading indicators are, we're taking the right actions, we know something's going to happen. And then that little sprout comes out of the ground, right? It's like, aha, it's a lead. Look at that. Let's nurture that lead until it grows.
Yeah, no, for sure. And those, especially if you're looking at a digital transformation, you got to have patience. I call it like, you decide marketing is not day trading. Marketing is building a portfolio, right? And you can't just keep doing it. Of course, you have to keep watching your portfolio grow and make changes, optimize it, and keep at it. But you don't have to expect immediate outcomes and returns. I mean, you started a portfolio building with a financial consultant and you expecting them to retire you in next month. That's not going to happen.
Yeah.
So similarly, your marketing needs to produce results over time, but it has to be monitored and optimized.
Well, that's a critical part right there. So I think we have to be patient, but we can't just sit back and say, well, let's just let it do its thing. We have to make sure that we're measuring, right? We're looking at those. What are the leading indicator actions we're taking? What's coming back out of that? What's the feedback we're getting? Are we attracting the right target market? Because if our marketing message isn't on point, we might be attracting folks that want what we have, but can't afford it. And then you get into the discounting and the cash flow kind of questions. Or
you probably get disinterested in your marketing altogether and you say it's not working.
Yeah.
So having that clarity is what you're saying is very important. Start with that end goal in mind, have that clarity, and then also work towards it in a very strategic, succinct manner and bring your team and your message and your ideal customer profiles at the center of it and say, how can we reach these ideal customer profiles and what does success look like and what kind of measurements are we going to have in place and at what stage we're going to reevaluate our own marketing efforts, right? So totally. Having that in place is one of the biggest things that we coach our clients and, even during just, after they become a client, but also throughout our buying behavior as well. So that really, really does build momentum. So talking on that, we've been in very unprecedented circumstances over the last couple of years, and we're just coming out of COVID, hopefully. And even if it was no COVID, sometimes as marketing professionals, VPs, you said people, companies do bring in marketing VP and then they give them a marketing coordinator to work with. And then they're like, okay, let's boost the CRM with right fit in market accounts and contacts. And that becomes just a challenge, right? So how do you think companies who are in the growth scale up stage should build momentum anytime, be COVID, coming out of COVID, or as they lose focus? How do they build momentum and come back to it?
I think the number one thing is consistency. We've said that a few times already. It's if we're not being consistent, we're not going to get the results. Now, what we have to recognize is that the messaging may need to change. So as an example, when COVID hit, just speaking from a personal perspective, we lost some business. We had some clients that were struggling. And, when everyone is worried, if we're out there saying, hey, we can help you grow your business, like that's not going to resonate with anybody. They're like, I just want to keep my business from going under. So what we did, we marketed for free support sessions. Like, how can we help you? Let's get through this together. So we were very consistent, but we changed our message to be one of support, right? So how do we add value in times like this? We have to read the room, right? We've got to understand what's important to everybody. What are their fears and worries right now? Or what are their aspirations right now? Are people in an aspirational mode? Are they in a duck and cover kind of mode? Or are they just sort of, not even thinking about growth because of whatever's going on? So we have to understand our clients. And I think that, very often we have a sense of what we think is important to a customer, but we don't ask, right? So I think it's important that we reach out to our customers and stay connected with them and find out what's important to you right now. What are your worries? What are your fears? What are your concerns? What are you excited about? What are your growth plans? Do you have growth plans, right? So that way we know what our market is looking for. And so we can position ourselves to be that value-added provider, that trusted advisor, if you want to say, to be able to help them, right? If they're thinking, hey, I just need to fix my business or I need to fix my marketing, but when you're talking about something else, it's not going to resonate. So I think we have to put a lot of effort into really understanding what our clients are looking for, what our target market is looking for.
And at what time you can talk about your services, but how do you add value? That's such a profound thing.
Sometimes it's not going to be about you getting the business. It's going to be about you introducing to somebody else that is the fit for them at the moment.
Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah. And it's not just always about, as you said, it's about farming. You never know when they become one of your other referral partners or referral source for the next time. So I think it's always about creating value and becoming. So you really touched upon a fantastic point, which is how do you stay connected and put customer at the center of your marketing and become customer centric and understand their end customers to bring that value in overall marketing messages and, overall marketing campaigns. And you talked, and you've come from technology, the importance of technology, but at the same time, you talked about turnkey systems, automation. What's the role of automation today in marketing, and any other trends you're seeing, or maybe any promising trends that you have seen companies apply over the last 2-3 years?
Automation is sort of a touchy subject, I think, because it's important to use automation because it's leverage, right? We can have technology do things for us. But I think where we have to be careful is that we don't let it dehumanize the experience, because we're not selling to another business. We're selling to another person. And if they don't feel respected, then you're going to lose credibility with them. So as an example, I get a lot of LinkedIn connections. And I think there's definitely a case for some LinkedIn automation if it's done tastefully, but I've gotten some that's really not. As soon as I accept someone's request, they're hitting me up to join their newsletter and come to the event. And here's a link to my ebook. I'm getting this onslaught of, it's like, hey, I just met you. Can we have coffee first before we get married?
It's like a dating system, right? Of course.
Well, yeah. So I think that it's all automated, right? And we're outsourced that way. But I think that when we use automation like that, we just have to be careful we don't alienate our potential customers. We can use technology to be able, how about this? Things like HubSpot and whatnot. If you want to add value to somebody, send them a link with a valuable download that's free. You can use automation to do that. Or if you have an email sequence, use that to add value and take them on that journey along the way. But make sure it's personalized. Make sure it's them centric and not just trying to get from them. Always add value at every stage. And I think that automation and technology can be used to do that. But we've got to be really focused in on not just how many more touch points can we make, but how can we make each touch point with our prospective client more valuable than the last one? How do we improve their position with technology?
And move them through that buying process and that buying journey as they're ready, instead of us being ready and pushing them down the road. So I think that's so profound. And, who would know better than creating value? You put out such great content. I love your content all the time. And that's why I think that everybody who's listening should definitely subscribe to your YouTube channel. And
it's free.
It's free. Yes, absolutely. It's and not even gated. You don't even ask for their email address for that. It's an ungated content, very valuable, highly quick snippets and quick bites and something that resonates. And on this show itself, you've dropped in a few bombs here. So of course, role of automation automation. I appreciate you touching upon the role of automation at buyer's journey. It's so critical for our listeners. I want them to know that there is no better time to build automation in your business now, because where our minds have been conditioned over the last 2 years is we've had more and more screen time. We've relied so heavily on technology lead our lives. And in general, any business who's watching, if you're in a software business trying to sell consumer goods or business goods or services, I think automation should be your best way to scale and grow your business. So definitely want to watch out for that. And definitely CRMs play a big role, but marketing funnels and automation on those funnels and keeping your potential clients engaged tastefully, not the LinkedIn distasteful messaging that you pointed. How do you do that? It's important. And you do such a great job, Dan. I have to give you kudos. You've been at it for several years. How long have you been in the business now? 13 years now?
Since 2010, so 12 years.
Yeah. 12 years. Wow. Yeah. Wow. Okay. Yeah. So it does. And it seems like yesterday, but I know that you've really created an impact for a lot of business owners within the Ontario region and maybe even outside of Ontario. So how do people work with you? Tell us a little bit more about how do you work with companies and what kind of companies and size businesses are you working with?
Yeah, for sure. It's kind of evolved over the years. When I first started, I was working with the smaller businesses, some startups, solopreneurs, and companies that had a handful of staff. Now I'm more focused on the mid-market, where the business owner is already out of the day-to-day, and they're now at a point where they've got a leadership team or a management team, and they have a bit more time to be strategic. So those are the folks that they're probably in the 5 million and up range. That's something like that, where they can think strategically and they have the ability to execute because they're not pulled into the day-to-day all the time. So that's sort of my target market, and specifically folks that are looking to grow and exit their businesses. And whether it's an exit to take on their next entrepreneurial journey or to go do something different for a while and then come back to business, or whether they're at that retirement age and we want to maximize their enterprise value of their business at time of sale. So that's really where my focus is. But I will have a complimentary chat with any business owner. I know over the years that anytime I can add value, it always gets returned. And that's not even my mission anyway. If I don't care if someone's just a consultant and they have a question, if anyone ever wants to have a chat, they can just reach out on LinkedIn and DM me. And I'm always happy to have a conversation. I might not be the resource they need, but I always strive to connect people with what they're after. So
great. And do they get you on a website or a URL outside of your LinkedIn?
Yeah. So kaizenperformance.com, KAIZEN performance.com.
That's awesome.
Or on my YouTube channel, just look up Dan Holstein on YouTube and you'll find me.
Brilliant. And you know what, for our listeners, Dan's always had this mindset to help add value, give you lots of ideas. And then if you decide to work with him, I can vouch for it. I've been there with him in the past and he's helped me get to where I am in a lot of ways. So thank you very much, Dan, for joining us. It's been an absolute pleasure. Yes.
Awesome. A lot of fun. It's always awesome to catch up and talk business and talk marketing with you. And great job on your podcast as well.
Yeah, no, thank you. Thank you very much. And here we go. We'll see you again next time in a few years or maybe a few months. Who knows? We'll bring you back. Take care.
Sounds good. You too. Thanks, Artie.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to the Fuel Your Marketing podcast. For more episodes, visit www.fuelyourmarketing.ca.